For a month she didn't speak to me. No texts, no calls, no response to any of the gestures I made, small things to remind her I was still here. For 30 days I lived with a stranger, a woman in the house but not in my life. Then, just as abruptly as the silence had begun, she showed up in the doorway, smiling, like nothing had happened. "Lesson learned," she said, her voice light, teasing, as though the past month of neglect had been some kind of harmless experiment. I glanced at her. "Lesson learned," I said, my voice quiet, measured, and I walked past her without another word. No anger, no drama, just a quiet, controlled observation. I had already learned something important during that month. People show their true selves when they think you're not watching. And for the past 30 days she had been revealing hers. My name is Mark, and patience has always been my strength. In love, in conflict, in life I've been patient. But patience doesn't mean accepting disrespect, nor does it mean letting someone treat you as invisible. 3 years ago I had built a life with Sarah. We shared laughter, intimacy, dreams for the future. But over time something changed. The little touches, the moments of connection, the warmth in her eyes, all of it began to fade. The conversations grew hollow, and the affection I once felt from her turned to indifference. I tried to fill the gap. I wrote small notes, made her favorite meals, planned evenings just for the two of us. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. By the 3rd month of this growing distance, it was clear, she had stopped caring. Not just about our relationship, but about me. About my feelings. About the life we'd built together. Then the silence started. A full month, and in that silence, everything became clear. It wasn't just distance, it was deliberate. I didn't confront her that night. Not yet. I simply sat in the living room, letting the silence settle around me, watching the tension in her posture, the slight flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. She expected me to react. To beg, to plead, to acknowledge her lesson. But by then I already had my own lesson. Silence reveals the truth. Over the next few days Sarah's behavior changed. Subtle desperation crept in. She tried to bridge the distance with laughter that was a little too loud, with touches that were just a little too close. She offered excuses, "I've just been busy," or "I needed space to think." But I knew better. The problem wasn't space. It was respect, or the lack of it. And respect, once lost, doesn't return just because someone says they've learned a lesson. I began to notice the changes that had taken place during her absence. Late-night texts she didn't mention. Plans she made without telling me. The way she avoided responsibilities around the house. Every action, every forgotten detail painted the picture of someone who had grown comfortable with neglecting me, someone who assumed I would always be there. It wasn't an accident. It was deliberate. And I understood it. I didn't react immediately. I didn't get angry or upset. I simply went on with my life, keeping my presence calm and steady. She tried to provoke me, to pull me back into the old patterns, testing to see if I would get upset or feel guilty or beg her to stay. But I had changed. I'd learned that patience is powerful, but observation is even stronger. She made her moves. A compliment here, a half-hearted attempt at conversation there. "Mark, I really missed you," she said one morning as she brushed past me in the kitchen. I met her gaze, calm and unwavering. "I noticed," I said quietly. No more, no less. No emotional response, no need for reassurance. I had already seen the game she was playing, and I was no longer a participant. By midweek, the cracks in her calm began to show. She started to ask too many questions about my day, about my time with friends, about the hours I spent at work. I answered her, but I kept my responses short, neutral. No emotion, no room for manipulation. She could see I wasn't falling for it. She realized, finally, that the man she had once controlled wasn't the same anymore. She had expected that after a month of silence, everything would go back to normal. That I would simply forgive and forget. But that's not how it worked. The silence had done something irreversible. It had changed the dynamic between us. By the weekend she tried again. "Let's have a date night," she suggested with a casual smile, as if nothing had happened. I didn't hesitate. "Not tonight," I replied firmly, offering no explanation, no apology. Just the truth. Her face shifted slightly, the smallest sign of frustration, but I could see the panic beneath the surface. She had expected me to fall back into old patterns. But I didn't. Her efforts continued, small gestures, lingering touches, playful comments meant to regain my attention. I responded with the same measured distance, letting her understand, piece by piece, that her games no longer held any power. Each attempt mirrored the disrespect she had shown me, and in her failed attempts she felt the sting of being ignored, dismissed, and unimportant. And then one evening she approached me with a hesitant smile asking, "Are we okay now?" I looked at her, calm, steady, and replied, "We're only okay when respect is mutual. Everything else is just noise." It was then that she finally understood. The lesson she thought she had taught me was the one she had learned herself. It wasn't about revenge or humiliation. It was about boundaries, about recognizing that respect can't be demanded, only earned. Once it's lost, it doesn't come back with excuses. I had shown her, without confrontation or drama, that true partnership requires mutual care, not dismissive attitudes. Later that night, sitting alone in the living room, I reflected on the past month. The silence, the observations, the small shifts in power. It had been a difficult lesson for both of us, but ultimately, it had restored clarity. Respect isn't something you take for granted. It can be lost in an instant, and once gone, it's never guaranteed to return. She came back to me, yes. But she returned to someone different. And that change was permanent.